Hi, my name is Daffany Clark from the Fosters, and you're listening to my interview with Elaine Goodman on Gogoodman.com.au.
Where did the name Daphne come from?
My mother actually named me Daphne, and it's spelled a lot differently than the common name of Daphne. And actually, I was supposed to be a boy, and my name was supposed to be Christopher. But when my mom found out that she was pregnant with a girl, Daphne, I guess, was the best option after that. So.
Wow, and is it an English name or?
No, it's actually a Greek name. It's from the laurel tree in the Greek mythologies. So it's really interesting because I'm not Greek at all. That's not part of my heritage, but my name is Greek. So it's pretty interesting, pretty ironic.
Okay, so all right, interesting. That's what I want. Good question to start with.
Yeah, it was such a good question. It's so out of the norm, but thanks. I like that question.
You grew up in Chicago. How old were you? Which I know, I'm pretty sure Chicago has a rich history of drama. How old were you when you first discovered acting?
I was in, I want to say, third grade, and I did a play called Cinderella where I played the evil stepmother. And there was just something about that role that I just absolutely loved. Not the fact that I could be mean, but I just loved being on stage. I loved performing, and I loved just being able to transform into other characters and to live other people's lives. So it was really interesting to me. And I've always been like the child that, seeks attention and wants to be the center of attention. So it just kind of was fitting that, being in, the theater programs or plays or the drama club was like, the way for me to go.
Do you remember when it kind of became your aim in life to be an actor, when it became a realistic career option?
Well, early on, it wasn't something that I knew that when I grew up I would be an actor, but it was something that I really was fascinated by, and I just knew I was talented and I was gifted in this area. But I really didn't have any real aspirations of when I grow up, I'm going to, pursue acting. I just kind of fell in love with it as a child. And, my very first movie where I actually fell in love with acting was called Imitation of Life. And I was just so intrigued by everything. And I just knew I had this gift. And I said, I'm going to, grow up and go to college and have a plan A. And then acting is just something that I'm really, really good at. But I really didn't really know what I wanted to be. But as I got older, it was a way for me to escape real life. And so I was able to really kind of connect with it and really just be somebody else and deal with my reality as an adolescent growing up, but also be able to escape into this, fantasy world, which I really loved.
Why did you feel you needed that kind of, I guess, escape?
Well, my story is really unique. I was born into a family where my mother is mentally ill. She's bipolar, schizophrenic, manic depressive. And my father left me at a really young age. And so I really did not know who I belonged to for the early part of my life until my sister told me that, who my real mother was. My sister and I were adopted by our biological aunt. And so for the longest time, I really couldn't connect with anybody because I really didn't know who I belonged to. And so it was really difficult seeing my biological mother go through her episodes, as most bipolar mental people go through. And acting was a way to kind of get away from my life and escape into this world where I could be anything that I wanted to be, and I didn't have to deal with the issues at hand, so to speak. It's really hard. For the longest time, I felt like an orphan because I really couldn't connect to anybody. And my, biological aunt raised us, but I don't have a relationship with my biological mother or my biological father. So it was really difficult, growing up as a child, not being able to have anybody that you can connect to and not knowing your real identity.
Did that feeling change when you might have maybe met people who were also interested in acting? Did you go to acting school to study and then meet people who had similar interests to you?
Well, I did acting all in high school, and then I went to Columbia College in, of course, Chicago. But I really didn't meet people that were similar to me, and as far as like my background and my story. But to have the common interest of theater and acting is what really kind of connected me to people, of course, when I was in college. Just the whole idea of, really just becoming whoever you wanted and, telling somebody else's story and kind of relating to different roles that were kind of similar to, who I was or, how I grew up. That really I was really able to find a connection with people in that. So yeah, acting has always kind of been my vice on how I deal with things.
And over the past few years, I looked at your IMDb page. You've been in the industry since about 2010 or 2011, and one of the films you worked on just last year called Reach Me had a really good cast, people like Sylvester Stallone, Kevin Connolly, Kelsey Grammer. Did you get to spend much time with these guys and learn a bit about their journeys in the industry to kind of gain some inspiration or get some knowledge from people who have done it all?
Well, Reach Me was a really great film, but I was actually cast on a reshoot of that film, so I wasn't on set when all of those stars were there. I got to meet Kira Sedgwick, and it was great working with her, but I wasn't really able to have conversations with any of those people, really, because, again, it was a reshoot, and it was in a small amount of time that we had to actually complete it. But the director, John Hertzfeld, was such an amazing director, and I was able really to kind of sit down and talk with him and kind of get an idea of, what he's done in his career. And he really gave me an opportunity because he believed in me to be a part of this film, and I'm really grateful to him for that. But, I know the time will come where I'm able to sit down with A-list stars, like you mentioned, and really kind of, get their stories and see what they've gone through. So I look forward to that. But, I've kind of been able to do some of that on the, set of The Fosters, but not as much as I'd like.
As you mentioned, on The Fosters, you now have a recurring role on The Fosters. I think it's on ABC, which is a show about a bit of a muddled-up family consisting of interracial lesbian foster parents and their foster kids. You play the part of Daphne, which is your role in a few different things you've done. What's Daphne about?
Well, Daphne, I play Daphne is a 17-year-old juvenile delinquent who has a 2-year-old daughter in foster care, and she is trying to get her daughter back. And she's had a very hard life with, of course, crime and being in the system herself as a child. And it's kind of a cycle in her life from her mother to now herself and then her daughter in the show. So I really relate with the character because, of course, I've, been in foster care, so I know exactly how that feels. And you just see her transition from, where she started out as this hardcore person, and you see how the arc of her storyline really unravels, and you see that, her being tough is really just a defense mechanism because she's been hurt so many times in her life. And that's her way of coping with things. But deep down inside, she's a loving person. She cares for her daughter tremendously, and she wants to get her back. And so just the way she kind of handles things in the show hasn't really been the right way to do things, but she's learning and she's evolving and she's becoming a better person and learning from her mistakes. So, it's kind of like my life, but without the crime, I guess you can say.
Does that...
And having a baby part. So, yeah.
Not yet.
Exactly, not yet.
Does playing a character that you can relate to make acting easier, or do you have to kind of over-exaggerate what you've been through in the show because that's what they kind of want to put across because Hollywood is kind of a bit of an over-exaggeration of real life? Well,
in some aspects it's easy, and other aspects it's not, because when you're playing a character similar to yourself, there's some things that you kind of want to leave in your past, but that it's what makes you who you are. So in one sense, you have to reveal it all and lay it out on the table. So I really had to give the character everything that I've been through that was similar to, the role. That way I could portray it truthfully. I could never really placate the things that I've been through or the things that the character has been through. In reality, my truth is her truth, and we have to stand in that. And that's, I think, what makes my character so relatable to the people that watch it, because I can't deny the things that I've been through, and I can't deny the things that she's been through. And I think ultimately, the stuff that we've been through in life really kind of makes us who we are, and we learn and we grow from it, and we become better people from it. So I absolutely love playing her. Sometimes it's a challenge, sometimes it's not. I know when I had to play with the little girl who played my daughter in the show, it was really tough. It really pulled at my heartstrings. But other than that, it's been really a pleasure to kind of, have people see the character and be like, oh my God, I know exactly how that feels, or you're speaking to me, or I've been through that. So,
is acting as an adult still a good coping mechanism, as good as it was when you were a teenager or going through high school?
I think it's an even better one because, the journey. I picked the most unstable career in life because you never know where your next gig is going to come from. You have to work a regular job, which is usually waiting tables to survive. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't trade it for the world. So with my journey from adolescence to becoming an adult, acting has still been my vice of dealing with certain situations in my life, or actually putting what I'm going through into my work as an artist. I feel that that's what makes me so relatable as an actress, is because what I feel, I make you feel, because I'm actually going through it in that moment, or I have gone through it, or I can just really relate to what the role is.
I know how you feel being in an unstable job, being in radio, so I can relate to that. It's tough.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you're like, I love what I do, but maybe I should have been a doctor or a lawyer or something that was more, financially lucrative. But at the end of the day, your artistry, your dream, what you really want to do is all you have. And there's no amount of money that could ever compare to that. The feeling that you have when you're doing what you love, or the effect that you have on people when they see your work. There's no amount of money that could ever compare to that. So. And
medicine and law is way too hard.
Exactly right. I'm not good with the law, and I don't like blood, so doctor and lawyer, I think, would totally be out of the picture for me.
Now, you've been a criminal in a few different productions. I read in the Fosters. Your character spent some time in juvenile detention, as you mentioned. What are the key factors in playing a convincing criminal, in your opinion?
Oh, well, that's a really good question. Well, I feel that most crime is committed for the need of something, right? Stealing, robbing somebody, because they have a need, whether it's drugs or money or something. And I think as an artist, I've had that need for something that I necessarily couldn't access myself, or I had to wait for. But, as Daphne, the actress in real life, I haven't committed a crime to get what I've needed, but I know what that's like, so that I can put that into the role that I'm playing, because ultimately that's what crime is: the need for something that you can't ultimately access without having to do something bad to get it. So for me, it was just taking on that tough exterior, the need to want something that I can't get, and to really kind of just show my dominance and the control that I have, and the intimidation that I can, make people feel for me. So that would be the most, I think, honest answer I can give you. Without actually going to commit a crime.
Is playing a criminal about trying to get pity from the audience, or is it about trying to make the audience kind of resent you?
Well, I don't think it's either. I think for this character, especially in the Fosters, her playing this tough chick that's done some bad things and ended up in juvie is her way of dealing with what, her life is. And I don't think she necessarily wants pity, and I don't necessarily think that she wants people to resent her. It just is what it is, you know what I mean? And sometimes you see people and they do things that are wrong, but you have to really kind of like take a step back and say, well, why are they doing what they're doing? There has to be something deeper that's going on with them to make them do what they are doing. So for Daphne in the Fosters, she wants to be loved. You know what I'm saying? She wants to be wanted, and she hasn't had that. So for her, she's seeking attention. So let me go and, rob or steal or whatever so I can get the type of attention that I need, and whatever the material need is at that time. But there's a deeper issue, and I think that's what people see. They're like, well, she's not just this bad chick. There has to be something more about her than her just being this hardcore person.
Now, you're also in a series starting this year called The Loonies. What can you tell me about this show?
The Loonies was actually one episode of a web series that a friend of mine, Daffany Clark, is doing, and I played like a cholo type character. But it's kind of like, I don't want to say a parody, but in a way it is. It's kind of like a parody, and the different episodes have different scenarios. So the one I played just like a gangbanger cholo who was, of course, being this tough chick and intimidating my co-star. But that was such a while ago. That was like maybe like 6 or 8 months ago. But I had fun doing it, and just when people think that I could play a character, and sometimes I'm like, oh, well, I hope this actually works. It's always fun and it's always a challenge. So I really enjoyed it.
It said on IMDb that it was in 2015. So IMDb's wrong.
It's probably going to be released in 2015, but we actually shot it in 2014.
Oh, don't tell people that.
Oh,
That's the secret of Hollywood.
I'm sorry.
Just ruining all the secrets.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And I also read that you can do a variety of accents. You can do a Southern accent, a Midwestern accent, a British accent, and a Spanish accent. Can you give me a short example of each? And have you ever tried doing an Australian accent?
Okay, let me start backwards and go forwards.
Okay, so do you want to start with Spanish? Do you want to start with Spanish?
Well, let me tell you right now, Australian, I cannot even attempt to do. I love it, but I can't. I always get it mixed up with British, and it's so not the same.
A lot of American people do that.
Yes, and I'm just not even going to attempt it. I'll work on it. I'll look at movies and try to get the accent. Like, when I work with Maya Mitchell, and I love when she talks, in her natural accent, I'm going to just keep talking so I can learn this. But then she goes back and says, Americans, I'm like, darn. Well, British, I love British accents, and just a little bit of something that I can do. I hope it's not too bad, but I'm still working on it. And I just love the dynamic of the accents and the words, and it's just a great accent to learn and to know. So that's that one. I hope it was not too bad, but I'm still working on it. My Southern is just, a Southern drawl where, down south, and my grandmother is actually, she's from Arkansas, and she moved up to Chicago with the kids and started a family. So that's that one. And then I
love the word drawl.
Oh, and then my New York, I do kind of like a Rosie Perez, you know what I'm saying? Like, in White Man Can't Jump, like, Mookie, what was I supposed to do, all that. So I love that. I love that accent the best.
And
was
Spanish.
There another one that you mentioned?
Spanish.
Spanish? Well, I kind of put Spanish and New York together because I'm not fluent in Spanish, so I really want to learn the language. It's just really, really difficult because there's so many, different ways to learn it. Like, you have the slang version, and then you have the proper version. So I just kind of put it in there with the New York, and then, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, ¿qué pasó? And hola, ¿cómo estás? And all that. So, yeah.
That's so Jennifer Lopez.
Oh my God, well, thanks. I'm trying.
It's great. It's really cool accent.
Well, speaking of Jennifer Lopez, she, produces The Foster, so, I learn from the best, I guess.
I also read in an article from 2013 that said you were on the verge of starting up a charity to help people suffering from mental illness, homelessness, and drug and alcohol abuse, and also mentoring young adults. Is this still a plan of yours? Is it up and running, or?
Yeah, it's still a plan of mine. It's not up and running. I kind of want to use my platform as an actress to start a charity like this. It's, starting anything like a company or a charity, a business, it takes a lot of work. And so I want to do it the right way, and I'm learning from different people that already have organizations. But each topic that you mentioned, mental illness, homelessness, drug and alcohol abuse, is really close to my heart because there are a lot of family members that have gone through all of that. And for me, the one that really kind of hits home is mental illness. And I really want to start a charity in honor of my mother, just to help those that are in need. Because I think I think a lot of times society judges people for having mental illness, especially drug and alcohol and homelessness. It's kind of like swept under the rug, and if I don't see it, I won't have to deal with it. But it's really in our own backyard, and I think a lot of times we need to just do what we can, and in the moment, and as far as long term is concerned, getting them the proper medication, the proper help, housing, things of that nature. It's really difficult to see somebody who has a mental illness and how to deal with them in that sense, because medication is the key. If they don't take their medication, they have an episode. They're not the same person that you talked to 5 minutes ago. So it's difficult, and it takes a toll on you, yourself. So for me, that's something that I really want to do and kind of bring awareness to everything so that people know, how they can help and how they can get involved. And, that at the end of the day, it's just about supporting each other and knowing that someone's there for you if you ever need it.
Throughout your career so far, you seem to have a lot of, I guess, references to your past. Is that something that you always planned on? Did you always want to refer back to your past or keep your past with you, or do you plan to, I guess, move away from it eventually and start a whole new life? Is your past a really important thing to you?
Well, that's such a good question. Let me tell you, you asked some of the most like deep questions. They're okay, now I can breathe. Let me give this answer. When I embarked on this journey to LA from Chicago, I wanted to be a whole new person. I said, I'm not going to talk about my past. No one's going to know where I've come from. I'm going to just recreate myself. But, on my journey being here 6 years, I've learned that everything goes back to my past, and everything is because of my past that makes me who I am. I would never have done any of this if it wasn't for, my biological aunt stepping in and taking me and my sister and raising us because my mother could not. Me being the independent person that I am and wanting to live this dream. And I feel like I have a story, and it's supposed to be told, and it really makes me who I am. It doesn't really define who I am, because a lot of my circumstances in the past, you would think that, I would have gotten into drugs or alcohol or crime, but I rose above it, and I said, this is what I want to do in life, and this is how I'm going to do it. And I made goals, and I dreamed of a lot of things early on, and I said, if only these things could come true, I won't have to deal with my past. But ultimately, it all goes back to that. And I wouldn't really trade it in for anything. There have been times where I'm like, God, why was I born into this family? Why were these the cards that I was dealt? But I think God creates, a purpose for each person that's born, and he puts in them a dream or a talent or a gift. And my gift is acting, and I use what I've been through in my work as an artist to share with the world so people understand that I'm just like them. I'm no better. I'm no worse. I am who I am. I don't, regret anything. I don't apologize for anything. And, it's funny, my biological mother, she said to me, when you go and you become famous, you don't talk about me. Don't say anything about me. Don't tell them that you have a mentally ill mother. And I said, I will never deny you as my mother. You know, I love you, and you are who you are, and I can't change the past, and I can just move forward and share my story. So for me, I don't ever think my past will ever not be included in my life and in my work, but I don't think it will be as evident now as it will in the future, if that makes sense. You know, I'm still growing and learning from everything, and I'm still dealing with some things in my life, and that's why I turned to acting to do that. So when I get older, you know, maybe sometimes, you know, I'll accept that my father left me, and, you know, my mother is mentally ill, and there's times I wish, you know, I could change it, but I can't, you know, and I've had to accept that, and, you know, I grow from it. So ultimately it's going to make me better.
What roles do you have to look forward to this year, 2015? Have you got some things lined up?
Yes. I'm actually doing a play right now called Under the Freeway, which happens to deal with homelessness. And I play, knock on wood, a bipolar homeless woman. So, which is, I just keep getting these great roles, which, you know, is not a stretch for me, but in a sense it is, because there's one thing or several things that actually triggers bipolar illness, especially if it's genetic in your family. And so that's kind of one thing, if I would say, if I'm fearful of anything, is triggering that illness and not being able to come back from it. Does that make sense? So I'm really careful on how I do certain roles that have to do with mental illness or schizophrenia or, you know, any of those types of roles. I'm really leery because I'm like, once you go all the way, you may not be able to come back. So,
yeah, and
but that's what I'm working on right now. So, and then I have a couple projects coming out. Keep the Faith, which is a Christian-based film, of course, about Christianity. And then Wingman Inc., which is going to be dropping in April, I believe. And that's a really funny role I play, kind of like I play a robber with my partner in crime, of course. And it's like a comedy. It's a comedy, but my character is really kind of funny. So I look forward to, you know, those both premiering. And I'm just looking forward to, you know, the roles that I will get this year, and people see my work and say, okay, you know, let's try her on this one and see, you know, how she can do on that. Or I would really like her to play this type of role. So
I guess when you do,
that's what I look forward to.
I guess when you do play someone that does have a mental illness, you have to be careful not to overdo it, and also maybe not to underdo it either.
Yes, yeah, it's one of those things where, you know, you're playing a real person, you know, because those people do exist. So you have to be really careful. You have to be able to tell the story truthfully without harming yourself in a sense, where you're kind of off kilter at some point. So for me, it's just I tread that very lightly, and I go as far as I can go without it really affecting me long term.
And being an Australian, the one that stands out for me maybe is Heath Ledger. He might have overdone it while trying to practice for the Joker. So maybe that's the industry has learned from that. I'd like to hope. Exactly.
Yeah, I would think, I mean, playing a character like that, to me, you have to go to places I can only imagine. But to stay in that type of role for an extended period of time, sometimes you just can't shake it off. You know, usually when you get off set, you're like, okay, let me leave this on set, and I'll be back tomorrow to pick it back up. But sometimes you go home with these characters, and they just don't leave you. And you have control over them, and sometimes you don't. For example, a good role I love is Sybil. Sally Field played Sybil, I think, in the 1970s, but she had like 16 different personalities. And I mean, like, it's based on a true story, and that's very scary because you just never know, you know, what's going to happen if, you know, you become schizophrenic or bipolar or, you know, all these different things, and now you have all these different personalities, and you just wanted to play a role, and now you go home with like 16 different people in your mind, you know. So it's just really interesting, you know, and you've got to be really careful with the types of roles you really kind of play that have to do with mental illness. So.
Do they teach that at drama school? How to cope, like coping mechanisms with acting in a role that isn't you, but could kind of become you if you're not careful?
Well, I learned that. I didn't learn that in college. Actually, I think I would like my money back from Columbia College because, sometimes you go to college to figure out what you want to be. Sometimes you already know you have a gift and a talent, but you go anyway because you're looking for a plan B. So for me, I knew I was good at acting. I knew I had a gift and a talent. But Columbia College really did not prepare me for L.A. It really did not, because it's a totally different world. So when I got here, I met my acting coach, Troy Skinner, who started a Breaking Through Acting workshop in 2009. And he doesn't teach a method. He doesn't teach a technique. He teaches life experiences and what you've been through and how to use it in your work and how to cope with certain things. And he just really just kind of molded me into the artist that I am, because I came out here very green, very naive. I had no idea what LA, was and what type of industry I was about to get myself into. So to find somebody like him who, took a chance on me, believed in me, pushed me, has been there for me in the hardest of hard times, and to really just say, look, this is what you have and this is how you have to use it, and these are the things and the coping mechanisms that you can use when you're going through certain things. And so I've really been blessed to have found him, because I don't even know where I would be right now. I would probably be lost in LA, because you can, you get to LA and, you can really just get lost if you don't have the direction and focus. But to meet people that really are genuine and have your best interests at heart and really want you to succeed, I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better person in my life. Like, he's more than an acting coach. He's like my mentor, my friend. Like, I can go to him and talk to him about anything, and he knows. He's older. He's been through the same stuff I've been through, just in a different capacity. And, he just gives the best advice, and he just listens, and he's honest. You know what I mean? Some people will lie to you and tell you what you want to hear, but he tells you what you need to hear. So for me, he knew my past, and he knew where I came from. And he said, well, this is what you're going to have to do, and this is how you're going to have to do it, and, all this stuff. And I'm like, wow, like, thank you, because, where would I be? I really don't even know. So, but yeah, no, college does not teach you that. You do not pay college to teach you that. Matter of fact, I want my $60,000 back that I'm still paying for, and I will probably pay for it until I die.
Oh, jeez. Now, away from acting, what's on the bucket list?
Aside from acting?
Yeah.
Oh,
most people say travel. Most people say travel.
Oh yeah, travel. Okay, that's one thing I would love to do. I would like to do adventurous things. Now, I know I may sound crazy when I say this, but I do want to go skydiving. That's something that I want to do. And I haven't been able to do because nobody wants to go with me because they're afraid they're going to die. So that's something I'm going to have to embark on myself and pray, and hopefully that the parachute will open.
Jeez.
I'm just saying, you just really think of the reality of bungee jumping.
Anything you say is going. Anything you say is going on my website and radio show. So, oh God, I don't edit that much.
Oh boy. Well, I don't want to. Sorry, I mean I misspoke. Not bungee jumping, but skydiving. Like, I really want to do that. I just want to you just want to face your fears. I want to travel. I want to skydive. I eventually want to get into the ocean and kind of deep sea dive, but I'm afraid of sharks and jellyfish and all those things. So I'm just such a big believer. What's in the ocean, you should not go and disrupt, because you don't see sharks walking on land. So for me, that's something that I'm terrified of, but eventually I want to do. What else? Later on down the line, years from now, after I win my Oscar, I do plan on winning an Oscar. Not just because I want one, but I want it to symbolize the struggle in this industry, and the fact that I can pass it back to the next ethnic woman of color and say, if I can do it, you can do it too. And I eventually want to get married and have kids, but that's 20, 30, 50 years from now.
50 years from now? Did you say 50 years from now you want to have kids?
What? you know, I mean, listen, we have this new age technology, science. I'm pretty sure, like, you know, when I'm 100, I'll be able to bear a child. I'm pretty sure of this.
Okay, right, whatever. Can I can I get a mention in your Oscar-winning speech?
Oh, absolutely. I will totally shout you out. But, you know, I don't really know how long these speeches are, but mine's going to be like maybe a half an hour. So they're probably going to have to go to commercial and then come back and then go to another commercial and come back. Because I'm going to be up there for a while. They're going to have
to get an extended version of the walk-off music.
Exactly. I'm going to be like, let me just run up here real quick, but I'm going to stay on here for about 30 minutes. So if you have any other awards, you might want to do that before you give me mine.
Daphne, it's been a pleasure talking to you, so thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This is a good interview.
Yeah, thank you. That's definitely going in the interview.